Outside the shower room was a hallway that extended off to the left and right.
There's a large iron door at the end.
Let's take a look.
They'd moved a few steps toward the door when Junpei heard the sound of metal on metal.
Huh?
They turned around. Seven was doing something to the door of the shower room.
What are you doing, Seven?
Well, I figure maybe we might want to come back here sometime. So, I stuck the broom in there to keep the door from shutting.
There you go. With that, he stood up and began walking down the hallway. He brushed past Junpei and kept going. After a moment, the rest of them followed him. Before long, they found themselves at the large iron door. They had only been there for a moment when June spoke up.
Jumpy, look!
He turned. There on the right side of the hallway was a piece of paper attached to the wall.
What's up?
What's that on the wall there?
It's a map.
Oh, I think it's
Junpei ran over and peeled it off.
a map of the ship's interior?
Yep.
It says C deck.
That's where we went through right there.
So it's the map for this floor then. We'll have time to study it later. Let's keep going for now.
Junpei folded the map and stuffed it into his pocket. Let's see, just finished. 3, 2, 1, go. Back at the door, the four of them lined up in front of it. Santa stepped forward. He grabbed hold of the door and then turned to look back at the rest of them. Actually, I want to see... Okay, yeah, we're about to just skip to where we are.
Ready? I'm gonna open it.
They nodded. Santa nodded back and threw the door open. All four of them leapt through.
What the?
You're shitting me.
Yeah, hospital room. And it took only a moment for them to realize where they were.
We're back.
They had been there only a short time ago. It was a large hospital room filled with countless beds. And Lotus is already bitching. Lotus and Clover looked up as they entered. Ace was there as well, though he looked as though he had only just woken up.
Clover! Lotus! And Ace! I'm glad you're all okay. Lotus? What are you...
The moment they spotted Junpei, Lotus and Clover headed straight for him. As she neared him, Lotus drew back her hand. Oh, I'm gonna get the shit slapped out of me. Ow. And slapped him open-palmed across the face.
How could you do this to us?
Oh, yeah. Her face was furious. She grabbed Junpei by the collar and shook him violently. Clover didn't touch him, but the hate in her eyes was no less potent. It was Seven who stopped them.
Knock it off! We got bigger shit to worry about right now.
His deep voice echoed across the massive room. Lotus glared at Seven, but Junpei let go after one last vicious shake.
What?
Go have a look. I stuck the screwdriver in the door.
That's really smart thinking, Seven.
That door over there, the one without a number. As long as the screwdriver's there, it can't shut, so you can get in there. There's a shower room past there. I stuck a broom at the door there too. Anyway, go take a look.
Then you're saying we can go in there without passing through the numbered door?
Yep.
Yeah, that's about the size of it.
Wait, what the hell is in there?
You'll know when you see it.
Fine, let's go.
Lotus and Clover looked at one another for a moment and then nodded and stepped through the door. By then, Ace had made his way to them, moving with the stiff, shuffling steps of someone who had just only woken from a lengthy slumber.
My goodness. I know I said I was sure you'd come back for me. I didn't think it would happen so soon, though.
Shut the fuck up, Ace. Ace shook his head weakly.
Should I go as well?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Seven nodded.
Very well.
Ace followed Lotus and Clover with his stiff, tired gait, whatever. Still don't know how to say it. We'll pronounce it right, I should say, perhaps. The squeal of tortured metal made Junpei's teeth curl. It sounded like a noise a ghost would make. No matter how many times he heard it, he never got used to it. Every time it put him on edge. It didn't help that there was a girl nearby who looked far more like a ghost than a living human should. It was Clover. She sat on the edge of the bed, her head dropping listlessly onto her chest. Her eyes were blank and stared across the room at nothing. Her breathing was slow and mechanical. Aside from the rise and fall of her chest, she didn't move. Junpei felt as if even a nudge might cause her to shatter into 1,000 pieces.
Snake was probably murdered.
Yep.
Chances are he was killed the same way the Ninth Man was.
Seven lowered his voice, likely in an effort to keep Clover from hearing what he'd said. There were 4 people in the room with Junpei and Seven. Ace, Santa, June, and Lotus. Seven looked at each of one end of them and turned and continued.
It's pretty straightforward. Not that hard to figure out how they did it.
Yeah.
First, the killers got Snake to authenticate on the red to open door 3.
And then they throw
Then
him
they
in.
shoved him into it. Alone. And waited 9 seconds for the door to shut.
And then he was dead.
Once that door shut, it was all over for Snake. But he didn't give up.
Pretty sure we have been through this part, but whatever.
He probably knew it wouldn't do him any good, but he
Ran to the dead instead. Still trying.
That.
Yeah, or he got that part.
Let's say you're right. When do you think Snake was killed?
When we all split up to look for the parts for the
Yeah,
red,
so good.
Whoever makes it through door 9 is a winner, and those who don't are the losers. Zero is trying to make us fight against one another for that victory.
Shut up. Was Zero who on the ship with them? Yeah. Of course. Of course he was. That was obvious.
But I don't...
Zero was somewhere on the ship, but Junpei had no idea where. Junpei muttered to himself, lost in thought.
Where could Zero be hiding?
Suddenly, everyone went very quiet. The silence was cold and clammy, and Junpei could feel it crawling across his back around his throat. Again, he heard the ghosting, moaning noise. And moments later, a person who looked more ghost than human appeared. It was Clover. She looked at the floor as she spoke, and her voice was a cold monotone.
I think Zero is one of us.
I agree. Every human in the room froze. The only sound was muffled breathing. That's crazy.
That's crazy. Isn't this ship going to sink in a few hours? If Zero was here with us, he'd be putting himself in danger. Why the hell would he do something like that? There's no
I'm just
motive.
picking different things here just to see what happens. Clover looked up at Junpei in her face.
You don't believe me.
Oh, well, that makes me feel bad now. Her eyes were so pitiful. The moment Junpei's met them, he felt his heart tighten. He didn't think that he said was wrong, but perhaps the way he'd said it had been. He'd been too insensitive. Clover had just lost her brother. His death would have been bad enough, but she's also seen the blasted wreck of his body. Junpei barely knew him, and the sight was enough to make him sick. What Clover had felt, he couldn't begin to imagine. In the mental state she must have been in, it was understandable that she would look at those around her with suspicion. She felt everyone was against her. The least Junpei could have done was try to understand what she was going through. He felt ashamed of what he had said. Perhaps he thought I should apologize. But after that apology could begin.
Clover,
But before that apology could begin.
Clover, I understand what you're feeling. You don't feel that you can trust any of us.
Ace had beaten Junpei to the punch. As he spoke to Clover, his face was calm and friendly.
But you have to understand. The more we distrust one another, the further we fall into our true foe's trap. Zero was the one who did those horrible things to your brother. Do you want to let yourself be manipulated by someone who would do such a horrible thing?
Clover didn't answer. She didn't even look at Ace. The whole time her eyes were on Junpei. You could feel Clover's eyes boring into him. They were the color of a deep winter lake. Junpei saw no suspicion in them, only sadness. Then in the horrible silence. A clock striking 2:03. It was the clock at the central staircase.
It's 3 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
That means we have 3 hours left.
Fuck.
Then we need to move now. 7. Clover, I know how you feel, but you do understand that right now it's important we trust one another, don't you?
Yeah, you could think that. Seven and Clover remained silent. Their eyes were looking at something somewhere else far away.
We must go. We have very little time left.
Ace's words put their feet to moving. All they knew that they were
our
where
next
they were going.
destination is Mercury. Here we go.
They stood in front of the elevators next to the stairs that led to the casino and the kitchen. Between the two elevators was a card reader with the Mercury symbol engraved on it. Junpei stood with the Mercury key.
Oh, that's the...
Yeah, I found it in the shower room.
Oh, I see. It's got the Mercury symbol.
Yep. He took a deep breath and slid the card through the reader. Made a small beep and the light on the reader went red, blinked to life.
Now we can go.
7 people included, Junpei climbed into the elevator.
Looks like there's only 2 floor buttons working.
C and bottom.
The rest were destroyed or did nothing when
Time to
pushed.
head down then.
Junpei hit the bottom button. The door closed. Slowly they began to move downward. Sometime later, all 7 of them stuffed off the elevator onto the bottom deck. They stepped off and saw the hallway to their right and ended somewhere between 20 to 25 feet from them. The hallway in front of them was a dead end. But not a regular dead end.
This is a numbered door.
Yep.
Yeah, it's door 2.
Immediately they began to discuss who would go through it.
So who should go through the door this time?
We don't need to be discussing who we're leaving behind this time, right?
Yeah.
Right. It's set up so we'll be able to meet up again once we get through the numbered doors.
Then there's no need for arguments at this point.
We should figure out who's going in first.
Very well. Would anyone like to volunteer?
I'll do it.
The first to speak up was 7.
I'll go too.
And I suppose I need to go too then.
Junpei followed suit, which meant Lotus was by default the 3rd member. 5, 7, 20, 2 plus 2, 0, 2.
All right, we're taking off.
Okay, please be careful.
Jesus. You 2 are acting like you're married, you know that?
Oh,
Oh my god. June, stop. So did Junpei. June bluffed.
Don't be silly. Cut it out.
Perhaps in an attempt to hide his emotions, he quickly turned away to pull the lever up on the red. June, stop it. Don't do that. Stop. Bad. The door opened. As they'd come to expect, there appeared to be a short hallway on the other side.
All right, let's go.
Lotus was the first to go through
Yeah.
the door.
Let's do this.
7 was next, and Junpei brought up the rear.
Where the hell is it this time?
I don't see it!
Oh, there it is. It's right there.
Fortunately, it took them only a moment to find the dad. It had been placed just inside the room right next to the numbered door. They gathered around it and quickly scanned each other and the bracelets. Each of their bracelets.
It stopped.
Yeah, it stopped.
Thank God. Almost. Junpei could feel his heart pounding against the inside of his ribs. 7 and Lotus were breathing hard and fast.
Man, I'll never get used to that.
I'm not sure it's something I'd want to get used to.
Let me guess. Flow still actually isn't there. Oh, well, it'll skip over once it does the little escape scene. So, that's pretty much useless at this point. Huh. Because I imagine this little lock thing. Huh. I don't know.
We should finish this game before imminent death becomes a...
Yeah. Looked around, 3 left. Yeah. Take the one on the right. Okay. Fuck. I don't know where to go next. 5-minute room. Yeah, now we're back in here. And there is nothing. No keys, nothing. To unlock. Huh. I think I had to go back over here. Which one is it? Operating room. Weird. Chart room. Captain's quarters. So it seems that there's like certain keys that you need to like investigate in certain rooms. So I'll go back to this one. Let's see. Before the door.
Hey, hold on.
Fuck, no, I didn't mean to do that, actually. Damn it. Junpei stopped, yeah.
Where's Clover?
Where's Clover? And then you have to go back and go get her. Can't actually fucking... Damn it. Already... Oh, hello. Gave her the 4-leaf clover.
Oh, yeah.
He didn't know why, but suddenly Junpei remembered something he'd been given earlier.
It's in my pocket somewhere. Here it is.
It's weird. He reached into his pocket and dug it out.
A 4-leaf clover.
That was like really weird. Weird. Santa had given it to him in the second-class room. He held on to it to
Hey, did you know?
over to Clover.
Each leaf means something. Hope, faith, love, and luck. That's what a 4-leaf clover stands for. Take it. Use it as a good luck charm.
He pressed the 4-leaf clover into her hand.
Listen to me, Clover. No matter what happens, you can never lose hope. You have to remember what's most important, and that's to have faith and to have love. If you can remember all of those, that'll bring you good luck. Snake, I mean, your brother, he's not dead. He's alive, somewhere. I'm sure of it. You've just
gotta believe that. Clover stared at the 4-leaf clover in her hand. He could see tears starting to form in the corners of her eyes.
Thank you.
Her voice was tiny and broken, and as she spoke, she started to cry. She tried to hide her tears by looking at the floor, but it did little good. She wiped away her tears with the baggy arms of her jacket, but more quickly took their place. No matter how she tried, she couldn't stop crying. Her tears made small wet circles on the floor.
Thank you.
She said it again. Then she looked over at Junpei and seemed to choke down the last of her grief. She did her best to smile. Junpei wiped an errant tear from her cheek with his thumb and gave her the best smile he could manage.
Now come on. Seven's waiting for us at the exit.
But still, she didn't move.
Wait, before we go, there's one thing I want to ask you.
What's that?
What do you think when you hear the word experiment?
Experiment. For a moment, his mind froze. Then he came back to his senses and realized the word meant nothing to him aside from the dictionary definition.
What?
Oh. I guess it was just a coincidence then. I mean, that you knew about the 4-leaf clover.
Look, I'm sorry. I don't want to be a jerk, but you are making less than no sense right now.
Oh, no. It's nothing. Just forget about it.
Oh, don't give me that. You really think I could just drop this? What is this experiment you were talking about?
Clover looked away. The 4-leaf clover was still in her hand. She stared at it for a long moment and then finally spoke.
You promise you won't tell anyone?
I promise.
Cross my heart.
Really?
Really?
I can trust you, right?
Yeah?
Of course you can.
Clover slipped the 4-leaf clover into her pocket. Her eyes still red from crying, she looked up at Junpei.
Okay then, I'll tell you. I'll tell you what happened on this ship 9 years ago.
Fuck, she was here.
Wait. On this ship?
Yeah, this ship.
He was entirely lost. He had 1,000 questions, but it was probably best he thought to save them until Clover had finished.
It was an experiment to test some sort of psychic thing. Communicating through these fields that you can't see.
I swear to God.
Fields that you can't see?
He'd heard something like this before. Clover nodded.
Like, think about this.
She pointed at the operating table. On top of it was a somewhat mismatched medical mannequin whose parts had been swapped with another mannequin.
This is John, right? But is he really John?
Huh?
All Junpei could think was she has finally completely lost it.
Isn't this like Locke's socks?
Locke's socks?
Or the ship of Theseus?
Oh, okay. How many times? What do you have to replace on something until it becomes a different ship? I've heard of the ship of Theseus. I will say that. That's how I know where she's going with it. At one point, like, how do you know this is John? You've already replaced his torso, his stomach, his arms, and his arm and legs. At one point, does it become not John? How many parts do you have to replace for it to not be John? Is what she's gonna get to. Junpei grew even more confused. He'd never heard of either of those things, although they sounded smart.
You don't know? You haven't heard of those paradoxes?
No?
Junpei shook his head.
Really?
Clover
Okay,
laughed.
well, pay attention then. This is how lock socks works. Let's say I've got a pair of socks. They're my favorite socks. One of them gets a hole in it. What would you do if that was your sock, Junpei?
Patch it up.
Well, I guess I'd patch it up, get some cloth, and close up the hole.
But what if another hole opens?
I'd add another patch, I suppose.
At one point, does it become a different sock or a new sock?
What if another hole opened after that?
Another patch, I guess?
Well, let's say you just keep adding new patches until eventually the original cloth of the sock is totally gone. Once you get to that point, can you really say they're the same socks you started with?
Well, that's tough.
That's why it's a paradox. Junpei crossed his arms.
So, that's the lock socks thing?
Because there's no answer.
Yeah, the ship of Theseus is a lot like it.
I think the ship of Theseus is much easier to understand, personally.
The ship of Theseus. If you keep fixing the damaged parts of a ship, eventually it ends up with none of the parts it started with. Can you really say that ship is the same one you started with?
And then what you do is, what if you take the broken parts of those ship and end up like repairing them by themselves, and then making another ship? Then you have two ships of Theseuses.
And what if you took all the old parts from
There
the
you
first ship and built another one somewhere else?
Is it that the ship of Theseus? Then what's this one?
Then which ship is the real ship of Theseus? The one you repaired, or the one you built with all the original parts?
It was an interesting question. Clover could see Junpei was intrigued.
Hey, do you think it's the same?
What's the same?
These guys. Is this John, or is it Lucy now?
Still John. Junpei looked at the operating table again. A mannequin full of body parts from a different body. Clover had been right. It was just like locked socks in the ship of Theseus. The part of the body that holds a person's identity is the head. Of course, for many hundreds of years, conventional wisdom has held that a man's identity is resided in his heart, or any number of internal organs. And here they have both.
John's head
had
and
both.
heart are both his. But apart from those, and a single arm, the rest of his body was once Lucy's.
Was that mannequin really John?
We're just like these mannequins.
She looked at Junpei again.
Think about it. The cells in our body change every day. Old ones die and new ones are born.
Yeah, but you still remain the same.
Maybe part of my arm is made of stuff from a fish I ate once.
Well, different parts of molecules, yeah.
Or maybe part of your right side is made from a cow you ate.
Oh, that's cool.
If you take it a little further, those cows and fishes are made from something else too, right? That's how we're all connected. Through fields that can't be seen with the naked eye.
The silence was broken by Seven.
Hey, what the hell is taking you two so long?
Seven's head appeared in the doorway. He was not happy.
How long are you gonna make me wait?
Sorry, man.
We don't have time to screw around.
Junpei and Clover looked at each other. Clover looked at Junpei as if to say there was more she wanted to tell him. She shook her head. Whatever she had to tell him, she didn't want to tell him in front of Seven. She seemed to catch on.
Oh?
Seven can't catch
What
on.
were you two doing? Was this some sort of secret meeting?
Man, it's none of your damn business.
No, it wasn't. We were just
Just...
Just.
playing with the mannequins.
Oh, you could have just said talking.
Huh?
Let's go, Junpei.
Bye. Moving a little bit too fast to be entirely innocent, Clover headed toward the exit. Seven stared after her and then turned to Junpei with an amused expression.
Playing with mannequins, huh?
Shut up, Seven.
Didn't know you were into that kind of thing, Junpei.
Shut up, Seven. Shut up, Seven. That's all I would tell him.
You're a dick.
Exactly. You dickhead. Get the fuck out of the way. Junpei dashed past him and traced Clover's path out the door. With a short laugh, Seven followed. They stood in front of the door. Junpei took out the Jupiter key and
All right,
opened it.
I'm gonna open it now. Is that cool?
Yeah?
You don't need to keep asking, just do it, alright?
No shit.
Fine then.
He slid the key into the keyhole and turned it. He felt it unlock. I found the escape because I was totally stuck in there. The door opened with a soft, melancholy creak. Beyond it lay a simple white hallway. There was no fanfare or confetti. Obviously, there was no one there to applaud them. They simply walked through the door.
All right.
That was it.
Let's get going.
Already had all that stuff.
I'm going to be next.
Clover had told him only a few minutes ago that her brother was
Like
dead.
hell I can.